Okay, today I want to speak to you about something of the spiritual nature. There's a voice that is within you, and that voice is very quiet. It's like a whisper. It doesn't yell, it doesn't urge. Well, it urges, but it doesn't force. It's just a very quiet whisper, and it will tell you, listen, Kirk, don't drive on Main Street today, take Central Avenue. And if you go on Main Street, you might not know the blessing that you're missing on Central Avenue. Or you might go on Main Street and get into an accident. So you want to pay attention to that voice. That voice will lead you through the wilderness. It is your guide. But a lot of times the voice doesn't logically make sense. And because it doesn't logically make sense, we ignore the voice and we go with our mind. And the mind basically a lot of times is operating from the ego. The voice is operating from spirit. Now, let me tell you how that voice, I'll just give you 2 or maybe 3 examples in my life, how it saved and changed my life. When I was younger, maybe 18 years old, I remember once I got dressed, I was going to a party with my boys, and we got in the car, okay, let's roll. Jamaican boys, we roll into this party. And while we were driving, this voice, the voice kept saying, get out the car, get out the car. And the voice, as we drove, the voice became more and more intense. Kirk, get out the car, get out the car, get out the car. So I told my boy, listen, pull over, I'm not going to this party. They said, but we almost, listen, pull over, let me out, I'll walk back, I'm not going. They said, nah, you're a boy, man, you're a boy, I'm going to carry you back to your car, man, don't worry about that. And they turned around, made a U-turn, and took me back to my car, which was about 2 miles away. When I got out, one of my other boys, ironically his name is Kirk as well, he got in the car and took my spot, and they rolled to the party. The next morning they called me, Kirk got shot. He was in the car, somebody ran up and shot at the car. He was sitting in the spot where you were sitting, he got shot in his back. And I'm like, wow. That was a wake-up call. I started paying attention to the voice. No matter how small it was, no matter how illogical, I started really paying attention to this voice. So here is how my life changed with my speaking business because of this voice. I'm in the New York Poetry Cafe. I'm not even a speaker yet, I'm a poet. I'm in the New York Poetry Cafe and I'm performing. And I'm there with my team. We're going to the Nationals. All 4 of us were on stage and we're performing. And the voice said to me, Kirk, look out in the audience. See that gentleman? He doesn't belong. Look at him, he's wearing a suit. No one wears a suit to the Poetry Cafe. You need to talk to him. So I paid attention, I finished my poetry, and when I was done, the gentleman that my spirit told me you need to go and speak to, he was outside and he was trying to get the attention of another poet. But again, poets young, we're getting a lot of props, very egotistical, and he's talking to his groupies. So he wouldn't even give the gentleman the time of day. So I walked up to the gentleman and I said, listen, I'm the captain of the team and I notice you're trying to speak to one of my teammates. Is there something I can help you with? He said, well, you know, you're Kirk Nugent, right? I said, yes. He said, well, I never really heard of you before tonight. I came and saw you, but I really like what you're doing, and I really came to speak to this other gentleman, but since you're available, listen, I know you're going to the Nationals. Here's my card. When you get back, give me a call. Okay, no problem. I took the card, went home, went to the Nationals. We performed in Chicago, came back to New Jersey, and I gave him a call. Told him that I'm Kirk Nugent, remind him where we met. He said, oh, yeah, listen, can you write a poem for us about AIDS? I said, dude, I'm Kirk Nugent, I can write whatever, stop playing. He said, okay, Kirk, write a poem about AIDS and tomorrow or Wednesday give me a call and we're going to put you on the speakerphone. I want the board, we're going to be at a board meeting and I want the board to hear the poem. Sure. So, wrote the poem, performed the poem, they loved it. He said, can you come to Central Park and perform the poem? Now, back then, I was really overcoming a financial challenge. Had nothing, going through a really tough time in my life and struggling financially. He asked me, could I come to New York and perform this poem? I said, listen, to get from New Jersey to New York on the subway and back is $5. I don't have $5. He said, listen, Kirk, can you borrow the $5? Yeah, I guess I could, but how would I pay it back? He said, Kirk, listen to me, listen to me. Focus on the big picture. I'll give you your $5 back. Just get to New York. So I borrowed the $5 and I went to New York, and it was in Central Park. They had this huge Haitian AIDS Awareness Festival and about 3,000 people in the park. I went on stage, and back then I didn't have the discipline to memorize my poem. I pulled the poem out of my pocket and I got on stage and I read it. I was on stage for 2, maybe 3 minutes. When I came off, he said, oh my God, they loved it, great job, and he handed me an envelope. I figured, oh great, my $5. So I took the envelope, went back home. When I got home, I opened the envelope, it was a check for $1,500. I called him up. I said, listen, you know how many commas and zeros are on this check? He said, Kirk, we always pay $1,500 for a performance. I said, let me tell you something. I got poems about AIDS, syphilis, herpes, gonorrhea, and that's how I got started. just by listening to that voice, it took me to this gentleman who paid me $1,500 to perform, and then started paying me that $1,500 every 2 weeks to travel all across America. That's how I got my first break and broke into the business of getting paid to speak. So following that voice. So what has that voice been telling you? Has the voice been telling you you need to leave this job, and you're saying, well, what am I going to do? I need to pay the rent. I need to pay the mortgage. Has the voice been telling you you need to get out of this relationship? You need to do this. You need to, what has the voice been telling you? Pay attention to that, because if you pay attention and trust that, it will lead you to your greatness. But you're trying to logically figure out how things are going to work, and the voice operates from a higher level, a higher self, so it doesn't move logically. It's moving on the subconscious. It's moving on the ethers, and it's creating stuff on the background that you can't see. So if you start trusting the voice and start believing that you're divinely guided, only good things happen to me. Start affirming that, start believing that, start trusting your voice, and watch your life unfold. By the time we're finished with this 90-day challenge and you're doing everything, you're believing, you're trusting, you're moving along the path, your life will be radically different than how it was when you first started. I'll see you tomorrow.